So, the first question I've got today comes from Nancy Knopf. Okay, it says, do church newsletters still work? And if not, what is replacing them? Well, newsletters are still working for some churches, but not for all. And those that are having the best success still with a newsletter of some sort are the ones who are focusing more on people and less on events and promotions. And what they're doing is that they're engaging people not by telling you details. They're engaging people by talking about life change and the stories of God's faithfulness and what God is doing in their midst and things like that. So they are using a newsletter not as an event delivery system or event bulletin board. They're talking about it in the context of what God's doing in their ministry. So they're connecting with people in different ways. Now, if you're doing a print newsletter, which I think from the way that you've posed this question is maybe where you're coming from, Nancy, I would begin to think about transitioning away from a print bulletin to a digital email version of it. And rather than printing your newsletter each month, I would take the money that it costs to do that printing and the time that you've spent creating it, and I would move those dollars over towards an email service like maybe MailChimp, Constant Contact. They've got some great resources that would make it really simple and easy to transition into a digitally delivered version of your newsletter, because it will allow you to do a couple things. Is rather than putting all your time and efforts into a single publication each month, you could actually deliver a couple, 3 emails a month on a schedule, like every Wednesday an email goes out, or every other Wednesday an email goes out. Something like that that would allow you to get information out in a more timely fashion, but also get it out in an electronic form so that you aren't spending as much time creating print. You're going to save money then in the mailing, in the handing out, in the physical print, that type of thing. And those services, MailChimp, Constant Contact, and others, have great templates that'll help you set things up. And they even have nonprofit pricing or even some free options. So don't let the price tag scare you away from checking those out. They're great resources. But there's some things to remember, whether you're using a print one or whether you're using a digital one, is people are super busy. So you want to keep in mind that you need your content to be easily digested. So don't overwhelm them with the volume of things you talk about, and don't overwhelm them with the length of things. You're better to present an idea in an email and send them to your website for more information than you are to have an email that just scrolls on and on and on and on and on. And then you can also use this space to share stories of what God is doing. You can tell testimonies in that space. Let them know about upcoming ministry opportunities. The other cool thing I see that I've got people asking questions here in the feed, which is really cool. Thanks, guys. Is how do I know if people have received them? That's the other cool thing about using one of these services, is you can actually see how many people viewed the email, how many people engaged with it, what links they clicked on. There's some great ways to find out if it was and wasn't opened. Something I've done is if an email I've sent out and there's a portion of my group who didn't respond to the email, I will wait a few days and actually maybe change the subject line and send the exact same email out again to just the people who didn't open it the first time, so that I can increase the number of people who can engage with that information. Adam is mentioning here that single emails in a week, one email, multiple pieces of information. You know, Adam, I personally would rather have one email that covers a couple small things and lets me go for more information. But I know that in some churches, in their organizations, it works better for there maybe to be like a youth email and an adult email or a children's ministry email. That was something that we did at our church actually. Was you could get different information based on what group you were a part of. And the nice thing with like MailChimp Constant Contact is that you can easily set that up by groups, so you're only sending stuff to that specific group. So if someone doesn't have kids, they don't need to read about kids stuff. So that is one way to be thinking about that. Okay. And the other thing I see here in the notes is, what do I do with Google and their lovely info about junk mailbox? I know in MailChimp, that's a service that I'm using. There is a really cool feature that they've added that is helping fight the fact that sometimes emails are dropped into the spam folder or the junk folder in Google. And that is that you actually link your website and your email service provider for your church to MailChimp, and that sounds really complicated, but it is not all that difficult at all. They actually have a nice little tutorial that walks you through, explains who you've got to share information with, and it just verifies that that email is truly coming from a trusted provider, so it helps them then know, Google, Yahoo, whoever you have your emails from, the recipient rather has their emails from, it helps them know, hey, it's coming from a trusted person. This is not just spam that's coming into the spam folder. The other thing is you can always invite people to say, hey, make sure that you whitelist our email addresses from the church. Make sure they're in your contact list so your emails actually come through. All right, so those are some ways for you to think about moving from a print newsletter to an email communication that you can use on a regular basis. And I would encourage you make that transition. For those people who maybe still want something printed, it's really easy to print a PDF out of either of those email providers and then get things into the hands of people so that they those who actually want to read a physical something can do that. But you will save tons of time by using those templates and other tools that are available. If you've got a question you'd like to submit for Ask Rad Ideas, visit radideas.com/AskRadIdeas to submit your question.